Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Big Bold You, a podcast that I developed really because I want to inspire every person out there to be bigger and to play bigger. And to do that, you got to think bigger first. That thinking, you can never outperform it, I promise you. Thinking happens first, and then the action will follow. We want to help inspire you to be bolder, which means you are going to have to step out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to do things that you don't think you can do, or maybe you're even scared to do, but I promise you, you can do them. So you can become the best version of you. I believe that we live in a world where there is a war between good and evil, and the only way evil wins is when good people like you, like me, like our incredible guests that we have come on the show every week, when we just don't do enough because we are scared. So each week we've got a phenomenal guest that comes on, and we talk about their journey. We talk about their gifts and their talents and what their passion and purpose is and what they're doing, but also specifically really what they've done to overcome the struggles and the negative self-talk and the fears and self-limiting beliefs that we all have. And today you are going to love our guest. She is somebody that has really become near and dear to my heart because she's just such a real authentic person. And at the core of who she is, which is the topic for our show today, is she is a teacher. So let's welcome to the Big Bold You podcast, Linda Schwader.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, you know how much I love you. I'm one of your biggest fans.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm one of your biggest fans because you truly are, at the core of who you are, you're a teacher. But right. What I think is really neat, and I want you to share with everybody, is really your story and your journey, because I believe you're at a place in your life, that you're becoming more congruent and aligned with who you are. And I think your story can really enlighten and spark maybe a fire for other people to say, hey, I think that might be happening to me. So share with everybody just a little bit about who you are and your story.
Okay. Well, I grew up on a farm in South Dakota. I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and my mom is one of the youngest of 13. And we grew up in a community my dad farmed with his 2 brothers. The cousins were there all the time. And so as I grew up, I had a big view of the world because my dad was an avid learner, avid reader, but also small in the fact that I never really envisioned myself leaving South Dakota. And there's a couple pivotal things that have happened in my life. One, well, before I tell you about the 2 pivotal things, is laying the groundwork is I grew up in a family where my mom believed in holistic health. We didn't call it back then. She just believed that if we got a headache, there was a reason why there's a headache. And so what is the reason? You're not just, let's take an aspirin for it, or let's take a Tylenol. She said she wanted to know, are you drinking enough water? So I already had laid the groundwork that you ask why something, not just take what the symptoms are. Now, on the other hand, I had my dad who read, I think he remembered everything he ever read. He was always reading. I always say that he had Parkinson's for 25 years. On the last day of his life, when he couldn't move anything in his body, he wanted to know who won the World Series and would we read him the paper. So he was learning up until the last moment of his life.
Isn't that awesome? Isn't that just so awesome? You know Paul J. Meyer. You know who
Yes.
Paul J. Meyer is? So for years, his vice president of his company, a gentleman by the name of David Bird, was my growth and development coach. And David Bird was really the person that got me involved in vision work. And believe me, if you haven't started your journey in vision work, you really do reach a ceiling in your life that you can't reach and really explode after if you don't work on vision above that. Mm-hmm. But he said on Paul J. Meyer's, and it's a real funny story I'll tell you later, but or maybe I'll tell y'all later here in a minute, but on his day that he passed away, he gave his vision statement
Wow.
to David Byrd.
Wow.
And, and he knew that who knows if he really knew he was going to pass that day, or he just knew he was getting close, but he had a vision statement that he had written because he had such incredible faith. He knew he was going to continue to live, just not in the current state he was living. So, I think when I hear that from your dad, I just think that's such a really cool, reassuring fact that he had some knowledge to know, I still want to know who won the World Series, and please still read me the newspaper. I mean, that's really neat. I love that.
Well, so that tells you the background. So when I talk about the two pivotal things that changed, looking back on my life, I mean, when you're going forward, you don't know what's going to be
Of course.
impactful. But looking back, when I was 28 years old and I had a tumor that was benign, it was a fibroid cyst, it was connected to my uterus, but I went to the doctor many times, different doctors for different reasons, and they were all giving me like, oh, your legs are swelling up, so take diuretics, or they were treating the symptoms. None of them were getting to the cause until I finally went to a doctor that said, that I had this tumor, I needed to get it taken out. They didn't know it was, cancerous or whatever, which it turned out to be benign. But the significance of this is this. When I asked the doctor why, because remember, my mom always said, find out why. And he said, because you're getting older. I was 28 years old, had this tumor, and he said, you're getting older. Well, right away, I wanted to find out why. So I started reading. It's like pre-internet, so I didn't search on Google or anything like that. I just bought a lot of books. I didn't buy them all at one time. I just buy this one, and then led to that one, led to this one. And I would read these books, and I formulate what I thought was the right path. And so since then, I have been passionately interested in health. But I never planned on doing anything with health in terms of monetizing it or anything like that. It was just a personal information, interest, I guess that's what I want to
Right.
say.
And your mom, to me, what a big deal that was for your mom at that time to question. So your mom really, she was a teacher herself. She was a teacher and a learner, and your dad obviously was a teacher and a learner, because I don't think that you can devour books and just be such a student of learning if you don't share that knowledge. You get to a point where it's like you're just sharing knowledge left and right, right?
Well, it reminded me of a story that my dad, I went to Africa. I've been there twice, and I've been on 7 safaris.
How cool, Lynda. I didn't know this about you.
One of them most of them were just, you go see big animals and stuff, but this one is in Botswana, and we went on a walking safari, and I bought a book that was about birds, because that's what you do, is you look at these birds and stuff. And I came home and I started telling my dad about this trip, and I gave him information, and he corrected me.
Because he knew.
He knew. He knew. He says, no, and I looked it up, and he was right. And I'd been there.
But here's another thing too that just popped into my head about that is, before TV, before the internet, what people consumed for entertainment really was one-on-one or live interactions with people, or they read.
Yep.
Obviously, so they did spend more time. Now, not that you can't read on the internet and everything like that, because of course you do, but that's, it's really who you are at the core is what your parents poured into you.
So the second thing we talked about was how I said there was two pivotal ways. When I was 18 years old and I was going to college, I'd saved enough money for my freshman year of college, but after that, I didn't have the money to pay for college. And my dad had said, if you're going to go to school, you have to pay for it yourself. So I was walking across campus. I saw a sign about making so much money. It was $2,500.
Right. Well, I was going to say, with 7 kids, they better have said you better
pay for your own. And I saw that, and I actually went out and sold books door to door to pay my way through college. And I ended up selling books. I came back the freshman year of college, and I went and I recruited a team because they told me that I could win a trip to Hawaii. And I thought maybe this was the only time in my whole life I'd ever be able to go to Hawaii. now been in all 50 states and many continents,
Right.
but I thought that might be the only chance to go to Hawaii. So I went back and recruited a team, and they sold books. So I started learning to sell, even though that wasn't my goal in life. I started to learn to sell when I was 18 years old because I wanted to pay my way through college. So I looked at the goal. So when I started selling books, at that time, my first summer selling, the company was 125 years old, but this was the first summer that they started letting girls go out on the book field and sell
Wow.
books,
What kind of books?
educational reference books.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Well, my parents bought a couple sets of those, and I remember the salesperson coming to the house.
Yeah, if it's the same company, but it was Southwestern, and they started right after the Civil War, and they started selling Bibles. But I was selling educational reference books, and I paid my way through college. I won trips, experiences.
That's
and
so
stuff.
awesome.
It's still a great company. They still go. And this summer, I had students that were from Latvia. Last summer, Estonia, that fly into the United States, and that's what they do for the summer. But when I started, there weren't any girls selling books. This is the first summer they sold on the book field. And so I got immersed in the culture of men and teaching what they teach and the discipline and the thinking and compartmentalizing. And it didn't matter how you feel. What mattered is you get the job done. And so that's just the way I've lived my life, is going on that path. And I started recruiting, managing, training. So now why do I tell you this? So I have this over here, this interest and this passion, but think I need to, so I'd wear two hats. I'd be the one that I was interested in, and then the one that I should do, which I love doing. I'm not saying I didn't love doing it. I didn't say I was good at it. I'm not saying I wasn't good at it. But I never ever thought about how you could merge those two.
Right.
things.
You didn't merge the two together.
Right.
But I think that's really common. I think, to me, you can make money doing what you love doing. And believe me, there's plenty of people that do that. And then there are people that are making money so they can fund to do what they love. And then I think the majority of people are just drifting and existing, and they're not loving anything. They're not loving anything. But I will tell you from personal experiences, as well, and I'm sure people watching too, is when you can merge what you love doing and what your purpose is and what your passion is, your life is so much more fulfilled.
Absolutely. Well, so when I'm in college, when I first went, my actual first major was going to be music, because I played the piano pretty well. And I thought, well, I would do something in music. But then I didn't want to do it because I thought, well, the only thing I knew that a music major would do would be teach. And I didn't want to be a teacher.
This is so funny. Are you serious? You were like, I don't want to be a teacher.
No, I didn't want to be a teacher. And then I thought, then I loved English. I loved writing. I loved reading. But I didn't want to teach English, And so I changed my major to go into speech therapy. I don't even know why now, but I changed my major, but I didn't want to be a teacher. And so I will tell you this. I've written a couple books. I've been speaking and training. I have been teaching sales teams forever, but I never thought about myself as a teacher. And it was about, 6 or 7 years ago. There's a book written by Gary Keller named The One Thing. And in The One Thing, this book, he goes along and he's talking about his purpose. And I typed this up, I have this here. And he says, if you don't, we say, find your why, find your purpose, find your mission. And I've always had a purpose of making a big difference, significant difference in people's lives, changing people's lives. But it's never been about the how. But I was reading this, and he said that he realized after 30 years that he was a teacher, that he taught by speaking, training, coaching, writing, and all of a sudden I had this big aha that's what I love to do.
Oh, yeah,
that's
definitely.
all I've ever done in my life is teach, but I've never wanted to be a teacher.
Right. Because, obviously, you and I were reading the book, Gary Zukauf's book, The Seed of the Soul,
Right.
and it was either May or June of this year. And in that book, he talks a lot about, there's some core roles, so to speak, that we all do, and some you have a calling for, and being a teacher is one of them. And I will tell you, at the core of who I am, I'm a teacher as well. And I think that when you want to help somebody go to another level so that it's transformative. Because really, I mean, look, you can't start planning your upcoming year if you don't have a vision statement. I mean, you
Right.
can, but it just, life doesn't work unless you have a vision that you're working towards. So
Right.
it's one of those things where at the core of who you are, 100% you're a teacher. And so you accepted that finally, right? And how did that change your life?
Well, it changed my perspective of who I am, which is kind of interesting because it was only like 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been doing it for a long time. And I've always been curious. I've always been open to learning. I've always been challenged. I don't want to read something that just goes along with what I already think I know. I want to read something that challenges me what I know, because my dad always said that if you do what everybody else is doing, then you're just going to become like, the mainstream. And it's not that I want to be way outside the mainstream, but I don't necessarily want to be right in the middle of it. And so another thing, and I also believe that you can't teach what you don't know.
Listen, can I get an amen on that one? I mean, I'm telling you, one of the things I think is just batty, because first of all, you can't. There's an energy that goes along with being authentic. There's an energy that goes along with being true. And when you want to do something, the only way you can learn how to do that is from somebody that has done that. That's all there is to it. I mean, but you know how many people try to quote unquote coach or teach people to do something they've never done before?
Right.
It just doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. I'm just telling you right now, just so don't get fooled by the pitfalls. If somebody hasn't achieved a certain level, and I'm not going to even say success, just a certain level, and they're trying to teach you how to do it and they've never done it, it's not going to work. I'm telling you.
Well, it's like going to a doctor that smokes that tells you about getting healthy. Or it's somebody that's way overweight that's teaching you how to get healthy. There's an incongruency there.
Right.
And I want to step back just 1 minute and just say that this is not for me to say that anything about being a teacher is bad, because I have a sister-in-law that's a fifth grade teacher. She's probably done it for 30 years. Her daughter, my niece, is a first grade teacher, or actually, kindergarten, first grade, gifted students, non-gifted students. I mean, one of my dearest friends is in Houston, and she specializes in working with autistic children, severely autistic. These are, in my opinion, saints.
Oh, 100%. And I love kids.
Which
I
is
love
why
kids. And I do think, just like we're saying, you're more apt and you've got special gifts and talents. And I think that people that work with children, and I love children. I mean, I've got 5 myself, and I love them, but you have to have a special place in your heart for kids, just like you have to have a special place in your heart for dogs and animals and all that kind of stuff. Some people do and some people don't. So yes, I do think though they are angels working.
That's why I couldn't be a teacher, because
Right.
I didn't feel I was a saint.
Yeah.
I'm in saying patience.
Exactly, the
and stuff.
patience.
And so, but how has it changed my life in terms of, it's just, like you said, becoming congruent, because now I really see that the whole passion that I had and the skills that I have, and I was passionate about this doing too, but at a different level. It was more that I was working a lot from my head. The skills that I had, I knew, I learned, I did well, but it was not necessarily something that I was passionate about. I mean,
Didn't fulfill you at the same level.
Yes.
And I think that's what confuses some people sometimes. Because you can be good at a lot of things. And like you were saying, I mean, you were very good at what you did. And it didn't mean you didn't receive some fulfillment. It didn't mean that you weren't happy, but at the same time, it just didn't light you on fire.
Well, and it certainly doesn't now.
Right.
In terms of, you reach a point in your life where, or at least I've reached a point in my life where I want to have the joy in it. It's not a word I ever assigned to this portion right here. It's just, if I got it done, if I won the award, if I won the prize, if I won the trip, or changed people's lives, accomplished my goals, I changed people's lives, that gave me joy. but actually the doing part of it didn't necessarily, you know, I don't know how to describe it because I wasn't unhappy.
Right.
I was not unhappy at all. It's just, I guess I reached a point where I am redesigning my life in terms of how I want to go forward from now at this point. And I know teaching is a significant part of it.
And so what is it that you're doing now? What are you doing that you're focusing more on your teaching and pulling in, merging that wellness and that health and the whole holistic approach to life? What have you started to do?
Well, I've been in health and wellness for the last 5 years. For the last 5 years, I've really focused on health and wellness, and I've actually specifically worked in the last 2 years with a network marketing company, and I want to say hemp, primarily hemp and CBD. I'm stumbling here, so I need to take some of my hemp oil. But so I work on that because I realize that in order for us we're not going to change our health by going to the doctors and relying on them to give us medicine. You know, at the age that I am right now, if I go, people are amazed that I'm as healthy as I am because not they don't know my past, but just, you know, I don't take any kind of medication, none whatsoever.
But you have had this mindset your whole life.
Right. Which has led me to that.
Right.
You know, I didn't just wake up last week and say, you know, oh my gosh, I'm getting old, I got to do something. You know, I've been just doing it. It became part of my life. It wasn't something I thought about. And that doesn't mean that I've been perfect by any stretch of imagination. You know, you talked about, with Lisa Stubbs, you were talking about sugar. You know, she's talking about the sugar thing. And so, you know, I love my sugar. I love my little sugar, you know. But the thing is, I love cooking. So I decide what's going to go inside my food that I'm making at home. I can't control it when I go out. But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you know, I have a brother that's 2 years older than me, and I was a psychology major when I was in college. And my brother, who was 2 years older, we were having a conversation. Shout out to Ty. I love him. Saw him this weekend for a great family event. But he said, you know, do something you would do every day without getting paid. Well, at that time in my life, I was really big into exercise and working out. And I said, well, I would work out every day. That's what I would do every day. And I wouldn't care if I got paid or not because I love it. So he said, well, you should do something in that. So at that time, health and wellness, employee wellness was really big, and all these research on, you know, prevention, and companies could cut costs on their health care with their employees and all this other stuff. And I said, oh, well, that's really interesting to me. So I got involved in that, and I graduated with a health and wellness degree, worked for a hospital. And in the hospital setting, I was actually executive producer of a TV show that we had. I also did community health, education, employee wellness, and all that. But I was so closely related to traditional Western medicine that within really about 10, 11 years, I couldn't do it anymore because traditional Western medicine is all about creating customers and not cures. And believe me, I mean, the food that we eat, the information that we receive, it's not even the right information. I mean, vitamin D, you have a vitamin D level of 60 or above, disease will not grow in your body. I take a brain product that my vitamin D level is 70 or above. Why? Because I know this. But it's not, when you go get your blood work done now, they don't even test your vitamin D.
No.
You have to ask to have your vitamin D level test by most physicians. And, you know, I had to change physicians because I would always get my vitamin D level checked. And then I went in, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and he said, the insurance won't cover it. And so if you want your vitamin D level checked, you're going to have to pay out of pocket. It was like $200, $250. And of course, it was important to me, so I said yes. But when you look even on what's recommended for your vitamin D level, I think what's recommended is like 25 or 30. Yet if it was at 60 or above, you would not have disease. So it's that kind of information that I know you're just all over. So did you stumble into the hemp industry, or how did that happen?
Well, it was totally an accident, but there are no accidents.
Exactly. You thought it was an accident.
What happened was a friend of mine from 25 years ago, I worked with her at the training center, and it was in Omaha, Nebraska. So I live in Dallas, Texas, so now we're a long ways away. I found an old picture. I just texted her the picture. So I reached out to her, and we just started talking. And this is something that she had gotten into was hemp. And she asked me, this is 2 years ago, it was just becoming legal, and it wasn't even fully legal here in Texas. And so she asked me about it, and I said, well, I really don't know that much about. But because I'm open and curious, I started finding out about it. I started looking into it. I started asking people that I knew on the alternative health, that the
that field.
Interest that they're open-minded to, and they know more about it. I'm kind of stumbling here because I have so much to say in such a short period of time.
That's what happens. I mean, honestly, that's why I'm serious. I've been talking to Ziggy and Melissa over here. I'm like, I got to do audio because literally Joe Rogan, I mean, there are people they'll do 3-4 hour long audio podcasts because you do have so much information in there and you do want to get it out because you are a teacher. I mean, that's how
Right, but
what it is.
I know because my brain is like, oh, like a dump that I want to dump, but you can't dump because it doesn't make sense. So anyway, my friend talked to me about this. I'm open and curious. I started looking into it, and so I said, yes, I want to go down this road because I want to do something that literally, when people are doing something, their bodies heal themselves. Medicine doesn't heal us. Medicine can facilitate depending on what it is, but our immune system, what's inside of our body is what heals us, not what we take. And so I love the idea of having a product that everybody, from a baby to somebody that's on their deathbed, they can take it. I mean, there's some things that say, from 0 to 88, they can take it. This is just something that everybody needs. And when I say everybody needs, every person, everybody's health. And so I love that part of it. And then the second thing that happened is when people started taking it and the stories that I had about how it's changed their lives. And we can't cure, we can't, we diagnose, we can't prescribe, we can just, that's not what it is. But what it does is it heals your body from the inside. And there are products that we have that, you take externally too. But the main thing is that your body is working for you. And we don't know sometimes when we take it where it's going to help you. Somebody might take it for one reason and it totally helps them for another. I've had
Right.
that happen for
Well,
people.
yeah, and here's another thing I think is interesting. I mean, we know this. I mean, hopefully we all know this. If you're watching this show, you should know this. What we put in our body heals us or kills us. I mean, that's just all there is to it. This past weekend, we were watching an incredible documentary on the plant-based diet and how it's really, I mean, that's really what we should be eating, a plant-based diet, but just the research and the studies. But this has been my philosophy my whole life. I don't know about y'all, but if I'm going to be alive and I'm living, I want to be living at my fullest potential.
Absolutely.
I want to be healthy. I want to be able to do the things I want to do. And, my mom, bless her heart, and your dad, you wonder, my mom has brain issues. I mean, she's got, they say she has Alzheimer's and dementia. Who knows if that's exactly what it is or if it's not the diabetes. I don't know. But she 100% has mental issues. And my dad's 89 and he's sharp as a tack. I want to be sharp as a tack every day of my life. So when you are talking about the CBD, and I do believe in the CBD. I believe in a lot of these different natural products. I'm all about natural because, listen, everything is on this earth that we need. I mean, that's all there is to it. But it really does, you say, it impacts people differently. And that's why I think, you gotta have an open mind and you just have to try things. And you have to say, give it at least 3 months. I mean, do you recommend that? I always say give something at least 3 months, folks, and be honest with yourself. Don't try it for 3 months and not even really give it a try. I mean, every day. You got to do it every day.
Right. It's every day. And because otherwise, we don't get to where we are overnight. So if we have something that's going on, it's not going to go away overnight. So I do think the 60 to 90 days, absolutely, to try to absolutely take it on a regular basis. Here's what I want to say also. It's not that it's just hemp or CBD, because there, especially now that in Texas on June 10th, it became legal for agriculture to grow hemp here in the state of Texas. It's already been federally legal. Well, there are little pop-up shops everywhere you drive down the interstate,
Everywhere.
and it's like CBD, everything. So you can buy it, and a lot of people buy things based on the price of something. And if that's your main thing, you're going to probably, if price is your main choice, then you're going to choose cheap. If you're going to choose cheap, then you're going to get that kind of quality in your body. And I'm not saying that it has to be expensive, but you have to look beyond price. It has to be something that what you're putting into your body, where is it coming from and where is it grown? And is it organic? What are the things that are going to go into the product that you're taking and putting into your body? And beyond that, there's a lot of companies. I call it, this is the wild, wild west right now. There's an oil boom going on, and everybody wants to get into this oil boom. And there are companies that without much research, they're just saying, we're selling CBD. But we have clinical studies that have absolutely done the research behind this. They don't have clinical studies, I wouldn't put it in my body. The second thing is it's organic, because hemp in the soil, hemp has been around for thousands of years. Hemp in the soil is a remediation plant. Remediation plant means it's going to take everything that's in the soil. So if it's been pesticides and herbicides and all this stuff in the soil, it's going to get into the plant, and that's going to be put into your body. So you have to make sure where it's grown. You have to know how it's processed. There's just so many things. We have a proprietary product that has results. And so somebody asked me the other day, how do I know a good product? Well, you don't if you're just buying based on one thing. You might think, well, full spectrum sounds good. Full spectrum means that there's THC in it. If you're a pilot, you cannot take something that has THC.
Now, but you know what? So what's interesting to me with that, first of all, I don't know if y'all could tell, but she's a teacher. Because you obviously you love to absorb the information,
Right.
and you love to share it. But for like here in the state of Texas, I mean, THC isn't legal. So how can there be even full spectrum CBD products even being sold in Texas?
Well, because federally legal is 0.0386. Okay, that's the federal standard. And actually, the first product I started selling had that. It had the level. So if somebody was a pilot or somebody was going to get tested for drugs, or a nurse, for example, or a doctor that's working there, they're getting tested, we could say, you're probably not going to be. It's probably not going to show up, but we can't guarantee it because it was federally legal. And yes, every state is different on that level.
Right.
That is true. And so people have, but if that's important for you, we have 0.0% THC. So we know that you can get drug tested. But I'm just saying that if that's an important component for you, that's one of the things you have to look at. If it doesn't matter,
Right.
hey, you're taking recreational marijuana on the
Right.
side, and now you're
Right.
taking hemp too, you're not worried about the THC factor.
Right.
So that's what you have to list your priorities. And if price is your number one priority, you might get something that's going to help you a little, because CBD will help your body. Even if it's just a little and it's not very good, it's going to help you because our bodies crave it and need it. We have an endocannabinoid system that needs it and wants it. But, you have to look beyond that if you want quality.
Well, and I think that people have to try things.
Yes.
I mean, listen, I could tell you everything that I take, and I can say it does phenomenal results for me. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's given me phenomenal results. Somebody else could try something, maybe it doesn't give you phenomenal results. But you got to try. I mean, you've got to be open. You've got to educate yourself, whether it's CBD or even just any products, but I will say, if you're not taking something, I mean, for whatever, it blows my mind how many people don't take supplements on a regular basis. It blows my mind. I want to know how many people are taking supplements. I want to know if you are not taking supplements. And if you are taking supplements, what kind? But there are a lot of phenomenal products out there, but you got to be open and you got to try it. You got to try it.
You got and curious enough to say, if this is my symptom, I'm getting headaches all the time. Why? Don't, I have a friend that just told me about somebody that had died from esophageal cancer, which is now one of the highest growing cancers, because I said, oh my gosh, he was only in early 40s, mid 40s. And I said, what happened? She says he was always taking antacids, always taking antacids. He would just take Tums by the bottle, or I'm not saying Tums, but just
Right.
He wasn't saying, what am I eating that's causing this problem? What am I doing? He was just masking the symptoms. And if people are masking the symptoms and they're not going back to, why am I getting this? Why am I having the stomach ache? Why am I having this acid reflux? What am I putting in my body? Then he might have been able to live longer,
Oh, for
because
sure.
he would have had taken a different route. He would have said, okay, whoa, I need to stop taking this. I need to start doing this. But he didn't. And
You said something really, really neat earlier. And you said, your body heals itself. And I can tell you, being in healthcare the way I was, I got very close to physicians and nurses, and I love physicians and nurses. And there's a lot of things that the way our system is set up, they've got their hands tied behind their backs, what they can do or say, how they can help you and treat you and things like that. So I always ask my physicians, I don't want your professional opinion, I want your personal opinion. But I was at a doctor. My youngest son was actually hit by a car when he was 7 years old. And he had a lot of soft tissue damage. I mean, a ton of soft tissue damage. I can't tell you how many doctors I took him to. And I took him into a pediatric orthopedic guy. And I can't even remember his name, but he was amazing. And that's exactly what he said. He said, now, your body will heal itself. It's just how long and what's going to happen along the process and during that process. And so, we were talking about it, and he said, the rule of thumb is always 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks. And to your point, this gentleman that you were talking about, okay, stop taking the antacids for 2 weeks and start to investigate what is it that you're putting in your body, and how does it make you feel. I mean, one of the things that I did for years, I was, my undergraduate was in health and wellness, and I taught Group X classes when I was in college. I thought I was the bomb. I loved it. I actually couldn't stop teaching the classes, so I taught in, for decades, mid 40s I taught. But one of the things that I always do is, if you're not getting better within 2 weeks, then go see. But when I was working with people, I was also training people as well, fitness training and things, personal training. But I would say, write down what you eat for breakfast, just normally, whatever it is that you would normally eat for breakfast. And then in an hour to 2 hours, I want you to stop and just take an assessment of how you feel. Just see, because what you want to start to do is you want to start to associate with how foods make you feel. And I'm even going to tell you how people make you feel as well, because,
ooh, yes.
I mean, people have energy, and being around certain people, that energy makes you feel awesome and great. And people have energy that is there, it's low, and you don't feel good around those people.
That's right.
I mean, believe me, I've been in meetings with people where I'm like, I've got to get out of this room because their energy is so off. And of course, it has nothing to do with you. It's just what they're thinking, what they're doing, what they're going through. But I don't want to be around that.
You don't need to be around it.
Exactly. And that's really what I think is so awesome with what you're doing over the past 5 or 6 years, is you're becoming more congruent and more aligned. And if you've said, you know what, health and wellness is important, you've accepted the role of being a teacher, that's important. You've grabbed it, really, and you've gravitated it, and you've grabbed it, and you're making a positive difference. And now you're like, let me monetize all this.
Well, and I become a hemp educator.
Yes.
I just want to educate people about hemp, what it can do for them, what it can do for their health. And so if they know, then they can make choices. If you don't know, you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
And so it's everywhere out there. So there must be a message. And one day you're going to say, you know what, let me check into this. what can this do for me? And I just want to say one more quick thing. Prior to about 6 months before Kathy and I talked about hemp, I had been closed-minded myself. And that's kind of, I just had decided that anything to do with marijuana, because it's illegal and all this kind of stuff. And then I watched a docuseries, The Truth About Cancer by Ty Bollinger. And one of the segments was about cannabis and what cannabis can do for our health. And I watched that day, and my mind, literally from being totally closed about marijuana and cannabis, opened. And so when Kathy talked to me, I already had opened my mind. So I'm just saying to you today, maybe you've never tried it, maybe you're closed-minded like I was, but open your mind to the fact, let me just check it out. It doesn't hurt to check it out. Just see what it might possibly do for you, and it might make the world of difference for you. It might change your life, your health, or your loved ones. Because what I always say is, you may feel great, but everybody knows somebody else that has a health issue.
Right. And I love it because I think that's probably your biggest teaching point for today is be open. Just be open, realize you don't know what you don't know. I'm going to say also that when you find yourself being resistant to things like you were saying, typically, first of all, just relax and just listen. One of my favorite sayings, and it's Stephen Covey's, is seek to understand first. So seek to understand first before you decide this is something you want to do or not. But I also want to put a thought in your mind, and that is, we just recently, a few months ago, had one of our family members take their life, die by suicide, and they were alcoholics. They were an alcoholic, and they were an alcoholic for years. And I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I just started to think what alcohol does to the body and what THC does to the body, totally different things. Alcohol kills your body. It kills your broad body, your brain. It's so damaging. And I'm not saying that, THC, everybody go out and do that, but there's a difference between an alcoholic and a pothead. And it's, you know what I'm saying? It's because at least marijuana comes from nature.
It does.
And I know other things come from nature that are horrible for you. So I'm not saying everything that comes from nature is wonderful and great. I'm just saying that I never thought of it that way. And it's just sad. Alcohol is, it's sad to see somebody go through that. Now, before we sign off here, one of the things I do, because I'm a teacher too, is I want to encourage everybody to be reading. And every month in our mastermind that we have, we read a book. And this book for the month is The Miracle Morning, and it's incredible. Linda just said, Jens, have you read his second book? I said, no, I haven't. And the second book is Miracle Equation, so that's going to be a book that we read for 2020. But one of the things that he talks about, which I am 100% a firm believer of, and you are as well because we've already talked about it, but basically how important your center of influence is. So that's the people that you associate with. And he says, research has shown that we virtually become like the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Who you spend your time with may be the single most determining factor in the person you become and in your quality of life. If you are surrounded with lazy, weak-minded, excuse-making people, you'll inevitably become like them. Spend time with positive, successful achievers, and inevitably their attitudes and successful habits will reflect on you. You'll become more and more like them, which I can't say, gosh, if there's somebody I'd love to spend more time with and become more like, Lynda, you are definitely one of them.
I was thinking that when you're saying that, that's why I like to hang around.
Yes. So with that, thank you so much. And if anybody wants to reach out to Lynda, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, on Facebook, you can reach out on Facebook, LinkedIn. And also Linda Schwader. So you just put linda.schwader@gmail.com. You can email me.
And I'm going to say this, that if you reach out to Linda and you let her know that you saw her on the Big Bold You show, she's going to have a special offer. She's going to
Absolutely.
do something really nice and special for you. And what I love about Linda is it's not going to be something blanket. It's going to be what is best for you. So please do reach out to her. Share this podcast with a friend. Make sure you've subscribed to the Jens Johnson YouTube channel and let us know what topic that you'd like to see us discuss. And, or if you would like to be on the show and share some of your struggles, and you know what, we're going to have to come back because we didn't even talk about your struggles and how you've overcome them. And believe me, she has overcome tremendous struggles just like we have, all of us. So until we meet again, please join us and be big, be bold, and most importantly, be you. Bye-bye.